Hello. I just wrote something that is a little, I like it. It's all right. Um, I'm interested to know what y'all think. And hopefully we can um, enjoy this together. So, the Medium article is called Why Modern Science is Afraid of Paraconsistent Divinity. We are told that reality is a collection of cold empirical facts, but this reductionist worldview is crumbling under its own rigidity. By embracing an anti-realist framework, we can bridge the gap between hard observation and infinite transcendence. It is time to reject binary constraints of scientism and rediscover the radical, pair-consistent nature of the divine. The 2020s have been a further entrenchment of scientism and dogmatic reductionist materialism. Although recent findings and approaches/methods in quantum mechanics, such as modeling quantum decoherence and NISQ noise, uh, oh, I forget what that. Let me look that up. Actually, I need to add that to it. Noisy intermediate quantum scale, yeah. Noisy intermediate quantum scale noise. Um, Quantum circuits for inconsistency resolution and formalizing superposition and wave particle duality, implying a non-dual and non-binary focused standard quantum logic modeling system that is far more true to reality than anything a conventional logic model can parse. So especially on the smaller scales, it's a bit dicey, and like in our heads, it's dicey. To say we know for sure what's happening in someone else's head is a quite a stretch of hubris and avarice and uh how would you put it, not just hubris and avarice, but like kind of a sense of entitlement and like omniscience of being just a human and saying I know exactly what the quantum state of their brain is. um that ties into psychiatry and psychology as well. um and all three of these examples, quantum physics physicists are proving the naysayers against dialetheism and paraconsistent logic wrong by providing an authentically real and effective situational parameter requiring a non-binary logic system that doesn't result in explosion. The sterile void of nihilistic relativist reductionist scientism strip that's supposed to be a S strips us of the very real complexity as well as simultaneous contradiction/coherence inherent to the quantum computing wetware we call our brains. This is definitive in their demanding an understanding of reality based purely in measurements and scaling. This is antithetical to our lived experience, which when broken down authentically, is much more of a Jungian oceanic experience that is fundamentally boundary lacking, one and none in a thelemic sense, as well as two, which I'll circle back to in towards the end of this. Embracing logical inconsistency inherent to all people due to the points made in the prior paragraph is fundamental for breaking the iron grip reductionist scientism has on the collective and individual psyches. To acknowledge that you nor anything/everything is a purely logical system, instead that you are and they are all three essential, some blobs with equal opposites appearing from nothing, self-generative, akin to all of the earliest divinities and nigh all mythologies. Appearing from nothing. This realization and the utilization of paraconsistent logic. Oh, I meant to say, and then disappearing back into nothing. after that. I didn't add that. I should fix that. Where's the strip? Where's the trip? There we go. Strips. Strips us of our inherent messiness. This realization and the utilization of paraconsistent logic, logical mathematics, and philosophy prevent and suppress explosion of all possibilities being true, even with absolute contradiction. It is an utmost important reality, although I personally feel as though my explosion, engulfment, is an example of how this isn't necessarily true, but that all things can be true, particularly, that's spelled wrong. For example, imagine a child, a soldier, a leader, literally being blown up, possibly in war or an accident, like a horrific accident, a horrific tragedy of war, where someone gets blown up. Gory, visceral, horrific. As tragic as that may be, this may be that individual becomes nothing, goes nowhere, which means they become everything and go everywhere. Both in ways that are gory, but also theological, and metaphorical in nature. An example of such a prompt for an explosion as such would be the coinciding of entirely different realities within the realist world from anti-realist perspectives or perspectives of more pragmatic intermediates. So like the natural disagreement that arises due to the separation of the word. The Tower of Babel sort of biblical idea of story. Um, what was that text? Divinity isn't a supernatural relic, but an inherent inheritance of our kind, humankind, of which is divinity itself through paraconsistent contradiction and coherence and nonlinearity. Ultimately, we must realize that the old and boring, even masturbatory, anti-intellectual debate of science versus religion is in all ways missing the forest for the trees in relation to the infinite being, the ground of all being, and non-being as the infinite. No, and the infinite as a misconception or maturation of masturbation of the infinite. So, um, yeah, I mean, basically, it's we need to realize what we're doing as God when we're debating science versus theology and religion. It's public. It's teledildonics. It is intentionally and actively forcing bystanders into a voyeuristic, masturbatory intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism, actually, would be a better way to put it. Um, because obviously they're not opposed; they're just things. I mean, they. I don't think that they are naturally and inherently oppositional forces. maybe spirituality or religion and not anti-religion, or science and anti-science, like pseudoscience. But yeah, such a realization, actually something, masturbation of the infinite, actually something even more inconceivable, mysterious, and apophatic in nature. So I mean, it's calling ourselves the infinite and in place of the word God does no justice to what we actually are and what we're doing. Um, but I do think it is legitimate to call it masturbatory in nature, intellectually and anti-intellectually at the same time. Such a realization naturally leads to the validation of ancient mystical gnosis that has bewildered us for ages. Such examples are Nagarjuna and Katsusuke, the four-cornered argument. Everything is burning. Everything is burning. Taoism and the fluidity of being strength is found in weakness. Action is achieved through inaction. Wu Wei. To firmly assert that something is purely A is to dismiss the fact that it is also simultaneously not A. These aren't just poetic metaphors or simple ironies. This also flows quite well with the modern understanding of the theoretical observations of and simultaneous simulation of virtual particles, or quantum foam appearing, being its opposite, and disappearing. Now we come to a more modern Western conception that is validated by such a reality based understanding slash bewilderment. Nicholas of Cusa and the Coincidentia Oppositorum. He posited that God, or the ultimate ground of reality, is the infinite synthesis where all contradictions dissolve into unity, which is the essential nature of the thelemic corpus and all good theology, physics, science, mysticism, and just about anything, everything, both imaginable and unimaginable. Something that transgresses this natural order is foundationally an abomination and horror beyond not just possibility, but impossibility. Um, yeah, it's like, yeah. It is common knowledge that our senses lie to us. Descartes' evil demon is widely known and considered as an intellectual exercise in the modern day. In this, I highly suggest and I suggest an understanding of oneself and others, everything slash nothing, as fundamentally nothingness itself. Zero equals two, which is a central thelemic concept, elucidates this recognition, as zero literally does equal the absolute value of one plus the absolute value of negative one, otherwise known as the absolute value. This is just the numeric notation, which translates to 2 equals 2. Something so simple, even a newborn or a pre-birth fetus, or yeah, a newborn or a pre-born fetus, like that's in the womb and is like a week away from being born or something like that. Even that could understand it, leading to a sort of Platonic understanding of anamnesis or recollection that we as adults must make, but simply don't do, missing the forest for the trees. And all in all, I think personally I feel the that following the example of Bruno's life, writings, and philosophy is a good way to live out this understanding or lack of understanding thereof, impossibility of understanding, maybe even, in the light of modern thelema, or maybe even vice versa, following accepting the law of thelema in the light of Bruno's fire as the ultimate synthesis of the infinite. Please, I beg you, step outside out of the binary constraints of modern life that claim realism while being unreal, and into the truth of reality that is anti-realist but real. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.